Hello, everyone. Welcome to my session, Fostering a Caring Culture with Your Students by Dr. Tisha Shipley. I am super excited and humbled you chose to follow my session today. So this is a little bit about who I am. It says, meet Dr. Tisha Shipley, early childhood professor. So, my bachelor's is in early childhood education from Northwestern Oklahoma State University. My master's is in elementary education administration from Northwestern Oklahoma State University. My doctorate is in curriculum and teaching from North Central University. I consider myself an early childhood podcaster, an early childhood presenter, an early childhood blogger, a relationship builder, lover of all things early childhood curriculum, and an early childhood advocate, which covers all sorts of subjects. I'm super excited to be here with you today, and I can't wait to get started. So here we go. Okay, on the agenda today, it's all about self-reflection, having a growth mindset, and leaving this session with a toolkit. I want to provide you with a few tips, tricks, little nuggets that you can leave with to try in your classroom with your students. I want you to be able to build and foster a culture of care with your students, kind of in a different way, tweak your way, tweak your plans. So what are you going to leave here with? That's up to you. Now, I know you're already doing amazing things with your students because we're educators. We all have ideas on how to build relationships and how to teach and how to build our curriculum. Because as educators, having continual professional development and being a lifelong learner, we know is so important. But also having that growth mindset is vital for what we do. So you're here. So give yourself a pat on the back. Thank you for being here. It takes a lot to self-reflect. But when we self-reflect, we grow as professionals. So today I'm going to talk a lot about my teaching experiences, my teaching practices, and those were in early childhood education all the way through college level. I want you to take the tips and tricks and make it fit your content area, your subject area, what you're teaching, your students. So I might talk a lot about my experiences, but I want it to fit who you are and what you're doing. So think about that as we go through these slides. Let's talk a little bit about online learning, how it's different, how it's the same, what do we need to do? Online learning has reshaped education as we knew it growing up, right? We all have in our head how education was when we were growing up. Online learning brings opportunities to learners of all ages. So we even see it in our youngest learners now in early childhood, all the way up through adults. It is a time where we can have diverse perspectives. We can share knowledge from learners all over the globe, which makes it really, really awesome. The way we are teaching and growing allows us as the instructor to shape who we want to be and what we want our classroom community to look like for our online learners. So it is our responsibility. So I want you to think back for a minute when you were in school. You walked into your classroom, you met your teacher, maybe you even shook his or her hand, you sat down at a table next to your peer, maybe you engaged in conversation, maybe you colored a picture, maybe you worked in a workbook. So all of these things have changed because of online learning, right? Online learning makes it more flexible, accessible, and we can even personalize education for each of our students easily. So we're truly differentiating for them. Online learning is going to continue to grow, but none of us know in the foreseeable future what it's going to look like, right? So I was doing a little bit of research for this presentation and a few statistics that I found from Delvin Peck from an Online Learning Statistics 2025, where they cite like Oxford College, different research groups, different analysts and analytics. They state that worldwide, 49% of students have completed some sort of online learning. I was really surprised about that number. Almost half of students that are learning who are taking classes have done some sort of online learning. 70% of students say online learning is better than traditional learning. I love that number. The number of online learning users is expected to increase to 57 million by 2027. Think about that, 57 million. The statistics are amazing. And what's more amazing is that more and more students are getting some sort of education when they may not have been able to if online learning did not exist. So we've talked a little bit about how online learning is different, but now how is it the same? We as the teachers are what is making the online learning experience. I strive to make it the same as my face-to-face learning or my traditional campus learning. We as the teachers set the classroom tone. We as the teachers get to incorporate active and engaging curriculum. We get to share our experiences. We build the relationships. We as the teachers get to ensure that students are feeling valued, feeling heard, and are successful. That's our job. So that brings us to the next question. What are we going to do? And that's what this presentation is going to be about. How do we make online learning the best of the best for our students? How do we foster that culture of care for our students so we retain them and they're learning, they're engaged, and they want to be with us. They want to be here. So if you'll notice on this slide, on the left-hand side, I've left the picture off. I left this picture off for a reason because I want you to create in your mind. I want you to think about what a classroom community looks like. What did the classroom community look like when you were in elementary school? And then in middle school? And then in high school? And in college? What did that classroom community feel like when you walked through the door? Now think for just a second about your classroom and your course room that your student logs into in your online learning room. Because I can think back to when I was teaching. I know what my early childhood classroom looked like. I had bulletin boards. My door was decorated. I had tables. There were materials, manipulatives, centers. My classroom was bright and fun and engaging. That's exactly how I want my course room to look like when my student logs in at the University of Arizona Global Campus. Just because they aren't physically walking through a door, they are logging in, and I'm still the teacher. They deserve that same classroom feel in that same classroom community. So think about the most amazing classroom that you ever had growing up. When your students log into your classroom here at UAGC or wherever it is you're teaching, what is the feel of the classroom? Is there a classroom community feel when they log in? Are you, the teacher, visible? What do they see? Are there announcements posted? Are there pictures in the announcements? Are there inspirational quotes or graphics? What are you sharing with them to get them excited? An effective classroom community engages learners by making them feel empowered, valued, and connected. So how does your classroom community look? How does your classroom community feel? I want to talk a little bit about how I decided that my kindergarten classroom, my pre-K classroom, my face-to-face college classrooms were going to be a part of my online learner experiences. So to me, fostering care in your classroom is all about the relationships you build with your students. We're going to talk about visibility and open door policy, co-learning, emails, calls, signals, text, motivational emails and posts, UAGC cafe, and frequent check-ins. So these are going to be 10 little tips and tricks you can try. And when you look at this list, you may be already doing them. But is there something new about the way you could do it that adds to what you're already doing? That's what we're looking for. Okay, so fostering care in your classroom through relationships with visibility, an open door policy, and co-learning. The visibility that you have in your course room means students can see that you are in the classroom just like you would stand in front of a class and teach if you were teaching in an actual face-to-face classroom. So reflect for just a second. Can your students see you? I have visibility in my classroom constantly. Maybe too much, my students might say. I am always posting announcements. I post announcements at least 3 times a week. I check emails every single day and respond. I'm in the discussion board every day, Monday through Friday, because you want to transform discussion boards into a dynamic space for meaningful conversation. And you can only do that by being present and being visible. In my discussions, I share resources and links, and most of all, I share my experiences, my stories, and what I did in my own classroom. I ask them to critically think and respond as a co-learner. So I also have an open door policy. My students know about this open door policy. They can call me, they can text me, they can email me. We can jump on Zoom. Because for me, an open door policy in my classroom, in the school, parents and students could come in, they could engage with me, they could chat, they could observe. But in an online learning environment, I needed to make that look a little different. So I tell my students that I have an open door policy and I give them the criteria. And I also tell my students that I'm a co-learner right along with them. And they know that from day one. Each one of my students gets a video that's personalized to them in the introduction. And in that video, I tell them that I'm learning right along with them. I'm researching right along with them. I try to find up-to-date resources, ideas, and topics for them. I tell them that I love professional development. I attend professional development just like them. And that I love to present because that's co-learning. I tell them that they have the knowledge and current experience out in the field, and I want to know what they're doing in their classroom, and then I will also share what I'm doing. Being a co-learner alongside your students is an approach that not only offers fresh perspectives because they know that they're co-learning with you because you've told them, so they want to share, but they're sharing those fresh perspectives, but you're also modeling mutual respect and trust for your students. And when you open up that co-learner mentality and you tell the students, because you truly are learning right along with them, you're both sharing knowledge, it builds a different type of relationship. It makes your students feel empowered, valued, and connected. All right, fostering care in the classroom through relationships by emails, calls, signals, and texts. When I was teaching in the early childhood classroom, I sent home a postcard to my families before school started. So I went out, I bought a physical postcard, I wrote on it, addressed it, put a stamp on it, and sent it through snail mail that we call it now, right? So I can't do that with all my students every 5 or 6 weeks. So now I email my students personally before class starts. I welcome them. The next thing in the classroom, what did I do? I had a back to school night for my students and their families. So now, instead of the back to school night online, I call my students because I want to encourage them. I want to welcome them. I want them to hear my voice. I tell them that I'm excited that they're in my class and that I'm proud of them. They're role models for their families and their community, and let's conquer this class together. I also text my students. Some students aren't going to answer their phone calls if they don't know your phone number. And I just want them to know that I'm their instructor, so I try to reach out any way I can before class starts. I also do this just to say, hey, I'm checking in. How are you? What can I do for you? I also say, hey, I see an assignment's missing. How can we get this in? Is there anything I can do to help you? I also use signals because the school really wants us to. It's for documentation. But I do this to reach out to my students so I can, one, add their advisor. Maybe sometimes we have something going on that all of us need to be on a message together. I can also send group messages together very, very quickly. I can also share a link or research that I've found quickly to them. They're going to get it instead of maybe posting it in an announcement. All right, fostering culture of care by building relationships through motivational posts, UAGC Cafe, and frequent check-ins. These are some of my favorites. I make sure that I preload 3 announcements per week that are motivational, okay? You might want to say, what does that mean? Well, these posts include inspirational teacher quotes, quotes about the topics for the week or the learning outcomes. I link resources, motivational videos, songs. The motivational songs are my favorite. For example, in one of mine at the beginning of class, Don't Stop Believin', that song, and they love it. And I'll tell you that these are one of the big things that I get on my student feedback on my reviews is that students tell me they love my motivational post, that they had a bad week, and when they opened up one of my fun songs, that they had a dancing party or something like that. So I make sure that I am posting motivational posts. I love to use the UAGC Cafe. Students may or may not go there, but it shows visibility and it shows I'm in different parts of the classroom. I make sure to post an announcement to tell them that they can also meet me over in the cafe for different little tidbits and resources, and I preload those. It all comes down to building those relationships with your students. So I think a really important thing is frequent check-ins with them. So on Monday, I might email everybody, welcome to Monday, another great week. I'm super excited. Let me know if I can help you. The next Monday, I might text each one of my students. The next Monday, I might call every one of my students. The next Monday, I might use signals. So there are so many different ways to check in with your students, and I think they highly appreciate all of these different ways of reaching out to them. The next thing that I want to share is caring outside the classroom, because a lot of times what we do are things inside our classroom community, right? But there are things that you can do outside the classroom to show your students that you care or provide them extra resources. So, three little things that we have here at the University of Arizona Global Campus is one, the Early Childhood Conference. I am the co-creator and co-director. I am also the host of an early childhood podcast that we have here at UAGC called Early Childhood Chatter. And then we have an early childhood YouTube channel where we bring in professional development speakers at our conference and other times during the year. We record their sessions and then we house them on our YouTube channel. So on the channel, it's really neat because we favorite and put these sessions in different categories by the National Association for the Education of Young Children standards. And then we also align them with different outcomes in our programs and our courses. So we truly try to bring in highly sought after early childhood speakers who are bringing a wealth of knowledge to our students. We want to make an effort to ensure that we are really providing our students with high quality professional development and learning. It's really important for that online learner. We also use adjunct faculty members here at UAGC who want to be a part of this, so our students can also see their teachers presenting. It's important because most all professions and most all content areas have these organizations and have these speakers. Give your students the opportunity. Another way to care outside the classroom is to get your students connected. I am one of the faculty leaders of the Early Childhood Student Club, and this is a space where we invite all of our students to come together to embrace diversity. They engage with one another, they learn from one another, we share resources and tips, tricks, ideas, they introduce themselves, and they are becoming a part of something that's bigger than themselves and bigger than the classroom. It's the early childhood community. We have a leadership board that meets and they attend meetings. They're highly engaged in the club, making it successful. In the early childhood program, in our introduction, part of the introduction is inviting them to join this club. We have over 2,000 students in the club, and it's a really, really fun and awesome place to be. A few other ways to care outside the classroom are providing my students with things that I am doing professionally. I always want to show myself as a professional in the world of early childhood education. So no matter what you're teaching, the subject area, the content, you want to present yourself as a professional. I always share the articles that I write about. Okay, so I try to write early childhood articles that are about different topics in our classroom or different learning outcomes. And I write those articles on Education World that you'll see at the top right. It is a blog. You see my profile picture. It states Education World at the top. There's a picture of me, and under that is one of the articles that I have currently written, which is Teaching Mindfulness in the Early Childhood Classroom. You can also read my biography, and this is the blog that I write on and share different things for my students. I also like to share extra resources with my students that I'm finding from early childhood associations, clubs, and organizations, because I want them to be highly aware of the different organizations that they can be a part of. So if you are on here and you're not in early childhood, what is your content? What is your profession? What are organizations, clubs, associations that your students need to know about? Make sure that you're sharing resources with them. I share my LinkedIn so that my students can follow me and I can follow them back as professionals. Because as we know, LinkedIn is a professional site And even in some of our early childhood classes, we have our students building a LinkedIn page so that they can begin networking with other professionals. And I think this is really important. So to the bottom right, under Education World, is a picture of my LinkedIn profile. My picture is there with my name, Tisha Shipley, the title Professor of Early Childhood Education at the University of Arizona Global Campus. And that is my LinkedIn profile that my students are going to see where they can follow me. There's also a picture across the top of several children showing that I am an early childhood advocate. Another thing that I'm really, really proud of is my early childhood website. And that graphic is right there in the middle. You see pictures of children at the top, and it says, Dr. Shipley's Busy Classroom, the World of Early Childhood Fun. Across the top, you can also see the different pages that are linked out. It reads the Busy Classroom Home, Love Literacy, and then More. Under More, when you go down to the pool, you can pull down, and there are about 20 different pages on my website. The website's www.busyclassroom.weebly.com. This is where I house all of my resources that I used in my early childhood classroom. They're all on this website. So you might find parent letters, welcome packets, center ideas, cooking ideas, children's literature ideas. Everything that I did in my classroom is housed here. I did this years ago so that when I was teaching online, if I'm doing a discussion about play and I wanted to use some of my play resources from when I taught, I could link out to a page and everything was uploaded right there. This makes it easy accessible for me and my students, honestly. So I present, obviously, and I'm always sharing my presentations with my students. So at the bottom of the page, there's a blue screen on the left. This is a photo. This is in a presentation that I did at the Early Childhood Conference last summer. It's called Building a Professional Presence as an Early Childhood Professional. So I share that in my classroom if we're doing professional presence in one of my classes, if we're talking about building a professional presence. I just put the graphic there, but if I was sharing it in my class, I would link it out in the discussion or in the announcement. I want them to know that I am out in the world of early childhood. So since I also like to share myself as a professional and show my students, I try to have social media pages that are all about early childhood. So I have an early childhood Facebook page, an Instagram page, a Twitter page, Pinterest, and a blog. These are different places that I can share early childhood news and topics and ideas, research, and just really show my students that what it's like to be a professional, what it's like to be a lifelong learner. So I added a picture of that right in the middle. It says Dr. Shipley's early childhood social media sites, and then it links out every social media site that I just listed off. All right, so let's talk about going the extra mile. I know that many of us wear different hats and we're very, very busy. But 3 things that I really like to help is building a culture of care with my students in my classroom are virtual office hours, live Zoom meetings, and creating videos. So the first one is virtual office hours. So I'm on my computer working all day, every day, right? So I have virtual hours every single day from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. My students can pop on Zoom, they can call me, they can text me, we can chat. I'm normally grading during that time. But again, if they're unable to attend, they can always set up a time. But those are the hours that they know that are set in my day that they can pop on and we can chat. Number 2, optional live Zoom meetings. I have one of these every other week in my classes. Now, again, students can set up a Zoom meeting with me by themselves if they are unable to attend. But just like my office hours, the live Zoom meeting is where students can come and have a discussion about anything in the class, the topic of the week. We can talk about things that they're curious about. We've had students talk about interviewing, filling out applications, where they work, how to get along with colleagues, things like that. So virtual office hours and optional live Zoom meetings are really near and dear to my heart because I really feel that it builds a classroom community and allows the students to come in and feel heard. The next thing is creating videos in my class. I try to create a video every week. I want my students to know that I'm there, know that I care, know that I'm there to support them, mentor them, cheer them on, whatever they need from me. And these videos are in my announcements. They can be in the cafe. They can be in the discussion, in the feedback. But I think creating these videos are sometimes even quicker than typing things out. So these are just a few things that you can do to go the extra mile for your students. Okay, so sharing with your students who you are. You want them to see you as a professional. You want to model for your students what it means to have a professional presence. You want to show them what you're writing, what you're researching, how you're advocating, what you're advocating for. And these are just a few pictures that I want to share with you. So I was actually interviewed on the top left where it says Dr. Shipley, Women in Early Childhood Education. I was interviewed by another early childhood professional who has some amazing things going on. And once a month, she has a spotlight on a woman in early childhood education. So I was her spotlight 1 month. You can see in the picture in the middle at the top, my colleague and I, Dr. Stephanie Hill, that is our cover for our podcast I've talked about. Our podcast is called Early Childhood Chatter, and we are the hosts. So when you're looking for the podcast, this is the face of the show. To the right of that, I was actually a guest on an early childhood podcast called the 10-Minute Cool Cat Teacher Podcast. Vicki Davis is the host, and I was on episode 299. So that's a really cool thing to show my students that I'm out there, I'm building relationships, I'm networking, and I'm providing my knowledge out in the ECE community. Down in the middle, under the Early Childhood Chatter podcast graphic, you will see Dr. Hill and I again. We were actually a part of our show, and we talk on the 100th show about 100 things that we have to celebrate about our podcast. So I think sharing this with your students creates inclusive practices and it connects you. So creating inclusive and connective communities in online or hybrid courses requires intentionality and practical strategies. Throughout this presentation, I've given at least 10 actionable tools and techniques that you can apply today, that you can log in right now in your classroom and try to foster that engagement and deepen that connection within your virtual classroom. How are you going to try to strengthen student relationships? How are you going to enhance participation? How will you build positive and engaging, cohesive learning environments that retain students and make them excited to learn? So when we first started, we talked about self-reflection. During this session, I hope you've self-reflected. What are the great things you're doing? What are the great things that are happening in your classroom community? What does it look like? But then, how can you make it better? What needs to be changed? How can you make it more engaging, more fun, more visible? How can you, as the teacher, be more visible? What are the things that you are going to try to do now?